Okay. So this is probably the last recording I'll make for you guys. Well, maybe I'll do one for problem set 4, but this is it, guys. No more, nothing left from me. Very sad. Let me go and find a meme face that expresses my sorrow. All right. Anyway, yeah. So problem set 3. So long. All right. The game is Scrabble. Okay. I hope all of you submitted. I just hope all of you managed to finish. The grading's not done yet, but we'll try and get it back to you before the practical test. Okay. All right. So let's just rush through. Okay. I hope that you all read through the code. Okay, and the structures and everything. Okay. Even if even if you're done, if you want to study for the test, what you can do is you can actually read through some of the rest of the code and see what makes sense. Okay, things like essentially things that say you should read and understand this. It might not have needed to read and understand it to do the actual problem set, but it might be helpful to do so for the practical test. Alright, that's if you have nothing else left to practice. Okay, so blah blah blah, unit testing. Alright, first one is to get the word score. Alright, to get the word score. This one is fairly straightforward. It's one of the easier parts. Okay, so let me bring in my answers. Alright, so this is get word score, right? Get word score, you're required to get the score for a word. Alright, you have to read through the question carefully. Alright, we don't write all this stuff for fun and to make you, to make the problem set longer. We actually have a reason for everything that we do. Okay, so first things first. Alright, before I even start on problem 1, this entire problem set, I think some of you conceptually had some issues with it. The reason being that you're like, I'm going to do this, alright? I'm like, huh? But who's going to get the word score, alright? Don't I need to say A equals to input give me a word, alright? And then from there I do get word score. No, that's not what we're doing here, right? This entire thing, this get word score and everything is part of a gigantic program. Right, it's part of a gigantic program. You see this in problem set 4 as well. Alright, this is part of an entire program that runs, alright, and calls all these different functions. Alright, so I mentioned before in the previous review that all these functions they have to behave a certain way, okay? Because there's existing code that kind of depends on them. Alright, so for example here it says load words and it says play game. Alright, so load words has to return a dictionary in order for this thing to proceed properly, and then play game has to take in a dictionary. Alright, it has to interpret a dictionary in order to do its job properly. So this is why all these function definitions are important. Alright, that's why you can't just go ahead and anyhow change these things. So I noticed some of you, when you were doing the problem set, maybe not when you submitted, you were doing things like word equals to A. Alright, let's call get word score A. There's actually no need for that, alright, because when we set up the problem set, alright, you could run it and you could actually see, you could run the test, alright, and you could actually see it deal with all the different get word score cases. Okay, so yeah, that's that. So get word score returns a score for a word, right? So essentially this, if we use our notation, it would say get word score word comma n. The first word would be a string, right? N is an integer, and it returns an integer, I assume, right? So here you go. Okay, so this is a pretty simple problem. Alright, we start by counting the scores. Okay, actually don't even need a counter, frankly. You start by setting an accumulator for the score to be 0. Alright, and then you loop through every character in the word. Right, some people might prefer to say for every letter in the word. Right, so this might make more sense to some people. For every letter in the word, right, we will loop through. Alright, and then we will increment the score based on the dictionary value. Okay, so dictionary value you can see up here, right? If A is 1 point, B is 3 points, alright? So this is pretty straightforward, I would think, okay? And over here, if you want to say, this is the part that some of you missed out at the beginning, alright? If you want to say length of word, is it? Yeah, alright, so this part is the one where some of you missed out, right? If you get all n letters, alright, then you will get 50 points. Okay, so N essentially is this one speaks to your understanding of the problem lah. You need to understand that the way get word score is used, alright, which you'll use later on. Right? The way get word score is used is that you will pass in a word and you will pass in what will eventually be, you know, like the maximum number of letters. Okay, so in this case, we don't really care what it is, alright, but if it's equals to the length of the word, then we just add 50. Okay, so that's problem 1. Alright, hope you're okay with that. Alright. Let's look at the test. Alright, so test for get word score. Alright. Testing for get word score, alright, happens like this. Alright. We actually have a dictionary. Right, a dictionary of tuples to expected scores. Right, so the tuple is this tuples are essentially the arguments that we're going to pass into get word score. Alright. So this is the key. Alright. The value is the expected score. Alright, so you can see it and 7, we expect 2 marks. Alright. Way Bill and 7, we expect 65 points, right? Because it's using all 7 letters. Right? There are 7 letters here, 7 here, therefore you should get the 15 plus that. Alright. So what happens is that for every key, alright, so a key can be phrased as a tuple, alright. For every key, alright, we call get word score. Alright, if the score is not equals to the value, right, failure, right, then you print expected this but that, right, then fail equals to true. Alright, then we check. If it's not failure, then we print success. Okay, so that's it. Alright, that's it. So that's what test get word score does. Okay, it just goes through this list. So if you wanted to add your own, alright, you could do something like, you could just create your own, right? So :0, let's say we know that this comma 10 also gives you 0 points. Alright, or maybe A comma 10 should give you 1 point. Alright, something like that. Or A comma 1 should give you 51 points because we used all 1 letters. Alright. So it's helpful to try and understand what's going on here, right? These are doing things like this, you know, it's not beyond your comprehension level at this point. Okay, so next, dealing hands. All right, so dealing hands. All right, so dealing hands is the problem where you need to update the hand. Okay, update the hand. Let's see. So display hand. All right, just loops through every single key and prints out the value. All right, it creates this string, right? There is on a single line, and it prints it out. Okay, now deal hand. Alright, deal hand essentially just is trying to give you a random number of vowels, right? And then fill in them with consonants. Okay, so these are lists that we've prepared early on. Alright, vowels, consonants. Alright, and then we randomly grab one for you, and we create your hand lah. Okay. So actually, when you're testing, right, some of you when you're testing, I see you run the program, and then you get a hand that you essentially want to test how do you get the maximum score, right? Then sometimes you get a test result of QUY, for example, and then you realize I can't make a word out. Then you try again and you get CAT, right? Then you can put, right. So actually, to deal with this kind of problem, right, what you can do is you can kind of hack the program, hack in inverted commas, all right. What you will do is, instead of here, let's say in deal hand, instead of returning hand, you say you return something that works for you lah. C1, A1, T1. Alright, so this will never get called, but this one will always return you CAT, then you can test from there. Okay, so this is a smart way to do things lah, right? Instead of trying to rely on the whimsies of your random generator. Okay, update hand. Alright. So update hand, there are a couple of ways to do this. I won't go through the other method, but I'll briefly describe it. Right? Update hand says that you get a hand. Alright, you kind of assume that the hand has all the letters. You don't worry about that yet. Alright, this is something that you worry about later. Alright, so we're trying to break down the problem. There are many different problems in this game. Right, we're breaking them down. In this problem, you just want to update the hand. Right, you assume that the hand has all the letters in word. Alright, then it updates the hand. Right, and another thing, it does not mutate hand. So this is very important. Does not mutate hand means that, right, you don't start by saying, oh, hand A equals to 0. Alright, if you do that, you are mutating the hand. Right, because some data structures like dictionaries, which hand is, and lists, alright, if you pass them in as arguments, you make changes, these changes will persist, alright, to the person who called you. Alright, it's generally good form to make sure that that you do not change any of the arguments. Alright, so in general, you shouldn't even say things like word equals to new word, alright, even though it has no effect on the word that's passed in, alright, it's still not very good form. Why not just create a new variable, right? Why not just create a new variable? No point using the one that's passed in, alright? This is something that you should try and get used to, right? Don't change the arguments, okay? So to prevent that, I would say new hand equals to hand.copy, right? I cannot just say new hand equals to hand, alright? This actually refers to the same thing. So if on the next line I say hand, new hand, blah equals to potato, alright? This means that hand blah will also be potato, alright? So no good, alright? So you can't do this, alright? Don't do this. Delete. Bye. Okay. So in this case, what I do is, alright, for every single letter in the word, alright, I actually loop through. I subtract a number from each of them. Okay, I don't need to check whether it has this letter or not. I know that it has all the letters, alright? So I just need to subtract it, alright? If it equals to 0, then I delete it. Alright, this is actually not super necessary, but just in case, alright? So so I delete it. So let's say you start with a word is cat, alright, and the hand is C2, A1, and T5, alright. So the first time round when you go through it, alright, your new hand is copied it, okay. So for each letter in word, so for C, okay, for C, new hand letter minus equals to 1. So now if this will become 1, alright. Then it will finish because it's not equal to 0, so we ignore the next line. Next, for A, right? So A subtracts, becomes 0, right? Then O is equal to 0. New hand letter equals 0, so we delete it. Bye. Right, and repeat this for T. And that's it, right? This is what we return to the user at the end. Okay? There is another method, right? There is another method which doesn't involve this thing. What you can do is you can use the, what is it called? The frequency, get the frequency, what's the frequency? Blah, 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 hang on. Get frequency dict, alright? Get frequency dict. Returns a dictionary where the keys are elements of the sequence and the values are integer counts. Okay, so what you can do in that case, if you want to use get frequency dict, right, is here's a brief outline of what you can do. You can actually say word dictionary. Right, let's say word dictionary equals to get frequency of word. Alright, then what you have now is you have two dictionaries. You have the word dictionary and the hand dictionary. Then all you need to do is to loop through every element, every key value pair in the hand dictionary, subtract the value of word dict key from hand key. Agree? Okay, so this means that let's say you have your cat and your C5A. Let's say you have let's say you have cat, and the other one, your hand. This is your word. Right? Word equals to cat. Therefore, your word dictionary will be equals to C1, A1, T1. Alright. Your hand dictionary, on the other hand, just hand, C5, A10, A1, T2. Alright. So what you need to do, alright, is you just loop through every single one. Alright. Take this 5 minus 1, 4. Alright. A1 minus 1, 0. Alright. 2 minus 1, 1. Alright. This is good because then you actually loop through less. Right? Let's say you're not talking about cat, you're talking about kata. Okay, so kata, this will be 2. Alright, this will also be 2. Alright, so let's say you start with 2, you start with 4. Alright, so then you say, 4 minus 1, 3. This one is just, 5 minus 2 lah. Alright, no need to loop through twice. And 2 minus 2, 0. Okay, then you return the new hand. This is not really hand, this will be new hand. Alright, then you return new hand. Okay, so that's it. That's the other way of doing it using the get frequency dict method. Okay, so let's carry on. Valid words. Alright, we want to check whether something is valid words, and there are two conditions. Alright, if the word is in the word list and the word is entirely composed of letters in the hand. Alright, so let's see. So first of all, if the word is not in the word list, so this is an example of short circuit logic. Alright, essentially, because your logic is that returns true only if all these conditions are fulfilled. This also means that if any condition is not fulfilled, you can return false. Alright, so like for example, if the word is not in the word list, oh okay, that's it, the end, return false, don't care. Alright, so there's a to do, there's no more to do, no more to do. Okay, then after that, alright, then after that you need to worry about. So I fulfilled one condition. If the word is in the word list, alright, I essentially checked. By the time it reaches here, the word is already in the word list lah. Okay, so the real what return false does, it exits out of the function and you know makes a pronouncement that ha, you're wrong, it doesn't exist. Too bad. Okay, so now by this point the word is in the word list. Now you just need to check if the word is in the hand. Okay, so what we do is we made a copy of it, alright, and then we actually use this .get function, alright. This is because we want to make sure that we don't say things like, let's say new hand is just equals to A5, alright. Then we don't want to do something like suddenly pass in new hand B, because that will crash your program. Alright, instead we will say new hand dot get B, comma 0. Alright, this means that it will either give us a new hand B if it exists, or 0 if doesn't exist. Okay. Okay. So alright, so what I'm saying is, if the character doesn't exist in the new hand, oh, you know, too bad. This is not a valid word. Alright, it's not a valid word, I can return false. Otherwise, I go through the same logic as before. Alright, I subtract 1 from that hand. Okay, because I need to check that it's valid word, right? It's valid word also wants to just keep a running loop. Okay, we are not changing the hand in any way, but we want to keep a running track. So let's say you have a condition where your word is a potato, right? But your hand only has P, O, T, and A. Right? So the first time round, right, sure, you found that these are all valid, subtract 1. But at some point, if you subtract 1, right, subtract, if you keep subtracting from your hand, after it reaches the next T, right, it should be at this point where, there's no more T left in new hand, therefore we can return false. Alright, this is to work out for that case. Alright. There is another way of doing this which also involves get frequency dictionary. Okay, so similarly, you use get frequency dict to do something with your word. Alright, then you can subtract. Alright, you subtract one dictionary from another, and if anything becomes negative, then you realize that cannot. Alright, then we return false. Right, and only right at the very end, only if it's passed through all these arduous conditions, alright, then you can return true. Okay, everyone alright? Next, actually playing the hand. Okay, this one I think you should be fine, right? You guys have done a lot of this. Just need to really fulfill these conditions. Okay, I think one thing that maybe tripped up some of you is that you might have just not figured out how to break out of 2 while loops. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so what happens is that we start with a total score, right? And I actually start by declaring hand over. Is it false? Is the hand over, right? And then this one over here. This is interesting. We'll talk about this later. Okay. While the hand is not over, alright, you say it's not. We haven't found a valid word yet, right? And then because the valid word is essentially for someone to just keep prompting people to enter, right? So this outer loop, right? This outer loop is for playing the game, alright? This inner loop is just for getting a single word, alright? Just to get a single word. Okay, so you can see there's a loop within a loop. I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, so notice that there's a certain pattern to here, right? You see, let me reorganize this a bit. Okay, hand over equals to false, while not hand over, then I do something. Valid word equals to false, while not valid word, then I do something. Okay, so this is a way of organizing your logic. All right. So while it's not a valid word, all right, we'll display the hand, we'll ask for an input, all right, and then we will say, if it's a dot, then the hand over is true. Okay? If it's a valid word, right, then the valid word is true, but the hand might not be over yet. Okay? So otherwise you print and you loop through. Right? So you keep asking until you get a valid word. Alright. Over here, this is how I check. Right? If I said over here I wanted to, if I got a dot, then if I just called break, I would break out of this loop, then it will continue. That's not very helpful. Alright. What I want to do is I want to indicate to the while loop, right, that you shouldn't continue, alright, you shouldn't continue. I use this to say you shouldn't continue, but alright, I also want to have something to indicate to the outer loop that you shouldn't continue. Okay, so that's one way to do it. There's a more elegant way to do this, but never mind lah, huh? This one is what I managed to do. Alright, so after you've gotten the word, alright, then you do the score updating. You get the word score, you add to the score, right? You print how much it earned, you update the hand, right? So you notice why now you see why update hand you can assume that the word exists in the hand, right? Because previously the is valid word has already checked for it. Okay, and finally, if the length of the hand is zero, right, the hand over is true, right? Then when it reaches here, it will break. Okay, then that's it. Right, it will just loop and loop and loop and loop, alright, until it breaks. Okay. The final one, right? The final one actually I cheated lah. Is this not really a problem inside the actual thing. The original question, this was given to you, but you know I like to make your lives difficult, so sorry. Okay, this one right, play hand, right. Previously, right, notice that this one, right, this is the original. It says hand equals to deal hand size, alright, hand size. The thing about this is that when you deal hand, right, you get a hand size from the user, alright. Then you deal hand, then you pass in a copy of the hand, alright. We'll get to that later. You notice that play hand actually has no information on the size of the hand, and you need the size of the hand in order to get to use get word score. Alright. So what I do is, alright, I call at the very beginning the size of the hand that you're playing is given to you because it's inside the hand. Alright, so if I sum up all the values of the hand, let's say my hand is C1, D4, and E1. Alright. So the hand size is actually 1C plus 4Ds plus 1E equals to 6. Alright, so I just need to sum up the hand values. Alright. If you didn't know how to use sum, another way is you can of course look through for key in hand. Alright, then sum plus total plus equals hand size actual plus equals to hand key. Alright, so that's fine. Either way is fine. Alright, if you don't know sum, it's okay. Okay, so alright, so that's how you get the hand size without passing it around and without using any global variables. Okay, so apart from that, right, here I use a while true loop, right, just to essentially just keep playing until I get an exit sign. Alright, so just keep playing until I get exit sign. Alright, over here I also have another while loop essentially that says, okay, don't be an idiot, don't enter a negative number. Alright, then after that I just deal hand. Alright, I use hand.copy because I actually want to keep hand. Alright, I actually want to keep hand around. Alright, this one is me being paranoid now. Alright, essentially if play hand doesn't mutate the hand, alright, then after that I can actually continue using hand to replay. Some of you, when you were doing this, you realize that, hey, when I replay, I end up with the depleted hand from last time. Alright, let's say when the first time you played, you started with a hand of C-A-T-T-A. Alright, and you play, you end up with T-A because you obviously guessed cat. Alright, then when you try to replay, you end up with T-A again. Alright, that's because you mutated the hand. Alright, that's because you mutated the hand, and you shouldn't do that. Alright, but even if you did mutate the hand, this is one way to prevent that from going wrong. You send in a copy. Right, so instead of sending in your actual hand, you send in a copy. Then if the idiot wants to mutate it, then fine, let them mutate it. Alright, but you will still have this hand lying around for if you want to replay. Okay, then that's it lah. Alright, so sorry about this being extremely long, but that is the last one, and you know I'm going to get very emotional, and you know I guess I'm going to log off now and cry myself to sleep. Alright, bye guys.